You're married to a woman you truly love, whether you feel she's your soulmate or not, doesn't matter, but you are absolutely sure that you are right for each other. You are having ongoing problems that have gone on for more than 6 months. Misunderstandings, miscommunication, hurt feelings. You think you're doing your best, you're trying to do your best, but for whatever reason, she's not understanding you or she's misreading you. You might have marriage cancer. Marriage cancer means that your best efforts aren't working. Your best intentions are being misinterpreted, and sometimes it may even be backfiring against you. That's a classic case where she doesn't fully trust your love. The 5 keys to saving your marriage. The first most important thing is to get clarity. It's to have an x-ray of your marriage, to get a diagnosis. And this is what I refer to when I say identify marriage cancer. If you're married to a woman that you truly love, whether you feel she's your soulmate or not, doesn't matter. But if you are absolutely sure that you are right for each other and you are having ongoing problems that have gone on for more than 6 months, misunderstandings, miscommunication, hurt feelings, stonewalling, explosions, conversations where you think you're doing your best, you're trying to do your best, but for whatever reason, she's not understanding you or she's misreading you, you might have marriage cancer. And in the first part of today's training, we're going to talk about how to identify marriage cancer. In the simplest sense, marriage cancer means that your best efforts aren't working. Your best intentions aren't working. Your best intentions are being misinterpreted. And sometimes it may even be backfiring against you because your wife might be looking at your effort that you're investing to save the marriage as a form of control or a form of manipulation. So I want to give you a couple of ways how you can identify marriage cancer, not just in terms of what you're going through right now at the present moment. And if you are, you can let me know in the comment under the video which of these symptoms you relate to, but also what are the things that may have led up to it in the past 6 months, a year, 2, 5, 10 years. Some couples can go on with marriage cancer for really decades. In fact, many couples who have marriage cancer might not get divorced, but they just will have a very unfulfilling and frustrating marriage full of ups and downs and hurt feelings and painful emotions. So how to identify marriage cancer? There are 6 ways. You don't have to have all of these things in order to have marriage cancer. Even if you have 2 or more, that is usually going to have marriage cancer in it. So the first one is, do you have unconditional love for your wife? Do you absolutely care about her happiness? Do you really love her? And then does she have 100% trust in that love? I'm not talking about if she says I love you but not in love with you. That's a classic case where she doesn't fully trust your love. She knows it in her head, but it's not really registering in her heart. If you have a situation where you absolutely love her, but she doesn't fully trust your love, that is one symptom of marriage cancer. And that is the one that actually bothered me most personally when I was going through my own marriage cancer quite a few years ago. Number 2, does your wife have the wrong opinion of you in her head? Is she stuck with the wrong picture of you? Does she think that you're somebody different than who you are? Does she believe your changes aren't real? Does she feel like you're manipulating her? That is another symptom of marriage cancer. Number 3, do you have the ability to see challenges coming up in the relationship between you and your wife? And are you in a position to see them and then fix them while they're small and easy to fix? Because problems that occur in a marriage don't really occur overnight. A woman doesn't decide suddenly to get divorced. She doesn't decide suddenly that she doesn't trust you. There are many dozens and really hundreds of interactions and conversations and misunderstandings that accumulate over time. And part of having marriage cancer typically involves a husband is not able to identify problems in the relationship when they're small and easy to fix until it blindsides him. It's another symptom. And like I said, you don't have to have all of them to have marriage cancer, but it's worth explaining because you really won't be able to apply anything else I teach in this training or in the other videos over here if you don't really understand what marriage cancer is. Number 4, are you able to make your wife happy? Or to put it simply, a marriage cancer symptom is when you're not able to make her happy despite your best efforts. You might follow her lists. You may do what she wants. You may try to do what she wants. She may change her mind multiple times. Bottom line is you're not able to please her. Number 5, which is similar to number 4, but it's uniquely different in the sense that the only way to please her is to sacrifice your needs or to give up on your opinions. Did you ever experience that yourself? Where that it feels or it seems like that the only way to get her off your back, so to speak, or to have some peace of mind or to please her or appease her is by you giving up on something which is important to you or not talking about something which is important to you. It could be a thing, it could be experience, it could be an opinion. But it seems sometimes that's the only way to get her to give you some breathing space. That's also a common marriage cancer symptom. And number 6, do you find yourself losing emotional control? I have to say this. Some people lose emotional control just because they lose emotional control. They haven't had the role models. They haven't seen it by their parents. They just weren't, either they didn't develop this skill, they haven't seen this skill, or they've had some significant traumas in their lives where they have difficulties with emotional control. So not every situation where you lose emotional control doesn't mean you have marriage cancer. Absolutely not. I'm not going to say that. That's simply not true. However, there are sometimes where, as a result of the pain in the marriage, a direct result, the disconnect in the marriage, the misunderstanding, the disrespect, the frustrating intimacy, the lack of intimacy is causing you to lose emotional control. That is what I mean when I talk about marriage cancer. So those are the 6 symptoms of marriage cancer. And if you have 2 or more, that is marriage cancer. You have to understand this. Why? Because otherwise your effort in fixing the marriage is going to be scattered. And it's going to be all over the place. And it's going to be difficult for you. And it's going to look to her like you are not being genuine. For example, if you try to fix your marriage by just being a good husband and doing the dishes and being available and paying for things and being a good dad and reassuring her of your love and showing her how much you're committed, you are actually going to be pushing her heart away, because all of those things will not fix these marriage cancer symptoms. They're going to fix lesser symptoms, lesser problems, things that happen as a result of marriage cancers. For example, if your wife has the wrong opinion of you, she's stuck with the wrong image of you in her head, she is going to disrespect you. Now, if you work on the disrespect directly, say, hey, I shouldn't be disrespected. This is not right. Look at everything that I do. If you do, that's not going to serve you. It's not going to serve you. It's not going to help her. It's not going to heal your relationship. It's not going to move you forward. Because the disrespect, when you have marriage cancer, is a result of the marriage cancer. So you have to focus on what is that image she has of me in her head? Why is it there? What am I doing now that's cementing that image into her head? Why doesn't she feel my unconditional love? How do I develop the skill to actually spot problems while they're small and easy to fix? You have to identify the marriage cancer, because that gives you a path on where to focus your effort in areas that actually matter to her and are going to make the biggest difference for you. Number 2, you have to build emotional openness. Emotional openness means that she feels safe talking to you. She feels safe talking to you about the relationship. And it is vital, quite frankly, even if you look at a strategy in another program, you won't be able to apply that if there isn't emotional openness. Because if she doesn't feel safe to talk to you, you'll never get real, helpful, healthy information that's going to heal your relationship. So very often in a case of marriage cancer, she will be resistant to you. You may ask her, hey, how are you doing? How do you feel about us? What are your thoughts about our relationship? Why are you moving forward with the divorce? She very often will not feel safe to open up to tell you what she really feels about you or about the marriage, because she doesn't trust the way you're going to react. She doesn't trust that you're going to understand. She doesn't trust the way you're going to respond to her. It is very important to create emotional safety in a marriage. It's a vital key. It's not negotiable. You can't avoid it. And it's true even for situations where her problem seems to be something that has nothing to do with you. For example, you might say, my wife has deep-rooted issues that precede our relationship. I'm going to tell you the blunt truth. It's simply not true. It is simply not true that the reason why your marriage is struggling 5, 10, 15 years after you got married is because of something that happened before you got married. It's logically and scientifically not true. 2 + 2 simply does not equal 5, because if that problem was a problem that is disturbing your marriage, it would have surfaced in the beginning. If she was abused or neglected, or she was traumatized, or she didn't have good role models as parents, and she married you when she was 28, how come the problem didn't surface until she was 44? The answer is very simple. From when she got married to you, you were the person that she was able to lean on as she went through this problem. Or you were seen by her as the solution to her problem. The proverbial knight in shining armor, right? You were the guy that made her feel safe, that gave her hope, that gave her that sense of romance and confidence and happiness and emotional safety. So whatever she went through before that, it doesn't mean she's not going to suffer from it. It doesn't mean it's not going to impact her, and it doesn't mean it's not going to impact you and your relationship and your family. However, when she feels emotionally safe to you and there's emotional openness, she can then come to you with her problem. She could then feel safe opening up to you and getting the feedback and the acknowledgement and the validation and the support from her lover, from her husband, from her man. But if that's not there, then whatever problem she has to carry it and handle it on her own. And then, of course, it's going to feed a marriage cancer. So emotional openness is vital. Another part of emotional openness requires emotional stability. In other words, that you have to be emotionally stable. Let me know what clarity you're getting from this and what questions you have about this. So it is important that you should be emotionally stable and fully in control of yourself, because otherwise you won't be able to implement really any marriage strategy. Any good advice, any good idea will fall flat if your emotions are all over the place, because you might say the right words to her, but what's going to happen inevitably is she's going to sense your tension, your frustration, your anxiety, your anger, and how uncomfortable you are in your own skin, and how frustrated you are with the relationship and with her, and sometimes even with yourself. And that blocks emotional openness. Number 3, you have to navigate conversations intelligently. What does that mean? There are hundreds and hundreds of conversations. And when I say that, guys, what I mean, there are hundreds of conversations within one marriage on the way to healing. On the way to healing the marriage, it's not an overnight thing. It's not like, here's the script, say this to your wife and you'll be fine. No, your marriage cancer, on average, has built up between 5 to 10 years before you even thought about getting help. I've observed thousands of marriages, and it is pretty consistent that the guy, usually the man, and this is not a judgment of men, I'm a guy. I went through this too. I'm saying the truth. This is the place where we're going to talk the truth. That if it has built up over 5, 10 years, it's not going away overnight. What's usually going to happen, what it usually requires are multiple conversations. And each time the conversations change a bit. And the key over here is to navigate these conversations intelligently, in a way that impresses her, in a way that shocks her, in a way that communicates your changes to her, and at the same time shows her that your changes are real. Now, I'll give you an example, right? For example, she says, I don't believe you can change, right? The wrong way, what I'll call the unintelligent way to handle this, is to challenge her. What do you mean I can't change? Look at all the things I changed. Look at all the new behaviors I started doing. Look at all the things I'm doing for you. Try to prove her wrong. That's one approach. Show what you did. Another approach, a wrong approach, is, and this may be involuntary, is to get bitter, to shut down, which ties into the emotional instability that we spoke about earlier. Either one of those approaches actually confirm to her that you did not change. Because if you truly changed, you wouldn't really get upset if she challenged you. Because you would know in your heart that you are changing. I may be going a bit deep with this. I wanted to explain it. What's the right way? She says, I don't believe you can change. Okay, ask her a question. For example, what do you mean when you say I can't change? And when you ask this, you don't ask this in an interrogating way, like a detective way and in a judgmental way, in a curious way. When you say I can't change, what do you mean by that? Do you believe that I really can't change, or that these changes are not going to last? Or are you just angry that it took me so long till I made these changes and you feel it's too late? Ask a question. And questions like that allow you to navigate conversations. Questions like that creates emotional openness, because you're coming from a curious standpoint. You're not coming from a judgmental standpoint. You're not coming from a defensive standpoint. You're not coming from an angry position. You're coming from a place of curiosity. It creates emotional safety. It displays emotional stability. That's number 3. Number 4, unlock her. Even after you start having these intelligent conversations, what happens is that inevitably at some point you're going to have to talk about the past. You're going to have to be able to communicate to your wife your newfound skill set, your newfound wisdom, your newfound ability to navigate conversations in the context where you didn't have them. So she may say, hey, Mike, well, you're doing really well right now, or it looks like you're doing well, but what about 10 years ago? What about that? How come you didn't see it then? How come you misunderstood me then? Why did it take you so long? Or what about this? What about that? Now, there's really a catch in this. She's not really going to say that. You have to bring up those points, because in order for a wife to truly love her husband, she has to be able to talk about the past until she feels comfortable with it. Now, for men, we typically are like, hey, let's move on from the past. We're good now. Let go of the past. But women are different. And she has to talk about the past in order to feel comfortable with it and comfortable with you. Now, here is the stage where you apologize, not before. You don't apologize in the first 3 steps. First step is clarity. You're just figuring out what does it mean marriage cancer. Second step, you're creating openness. Third step is you're handling conversations intelligently, but you're not yet apologizing. Apology is a very high level skill, and unfortunately, most guys do this too soon. In fact, one of the reasons why marriage counseling fails so terribly is because, again, there are many reasons, but I just want to touch on this point. One of the reasons is because the apologies that guys make as a result of counseling are superficial and they're premature and they lack the intelligent depth, the emotionally intelligent depth necessary to communicate to your wife if you truly understand her. And the key is you have to talk about the past. This is another piece, because without it, it will haunt her. And it will sabotage her heart, even if she's making believe that she wants to work on the relationship. It will haunt her until you bring up the past and until you bring it up in an intelligent way. However, you have to do these things in sequence. Okay? Number 5, sexual intimacy. For women, passion, physical intimacy, sexual intimacy is the result of closeness. It's not the cause of closeness. For a woman, her actual physical desire for intimacy is very much connected to her feelings. So much so, guys misunderstand this, that they will often, I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, oh, my wife is really not interested in intimacy. She had her hormonal thing, menopause, blah, blah. Never true. When a woman is not happy with her relationship, her sexual desire gets shut off from her husband, but it doesn't get shut off completely. I'll make the point a different way. Okay, it's a little bit of a harsh point, but a true point. A lot of guys have told me, I'm 100% certain my wife is not in an affair. Then we work together. After a couple of months, we find out she is involved with another man. And the guy is shocked. I've picked up these cues much earlier, so I would tell these guys in certain situations, don't be shocked if your wife is in an affair based on things you tell me. But they still don't believe me until they see for themselves, oh wow, there's something going on. Now, how do I know it? Am I a genius? No. But I've learned over time, women are interested in intimacy. They're interested in closeness. They're interested in sexual intimacy. But if they are upset at their husbands, they get turned off from him. A guy could be angry at his wife, but still desire her physically. A woman could be angry at her husband, and very rarely will she desire him. She still might on some level. There will be some exceptions, which goes into things beyond the scope of today's training, such as ovulation and other things which may be chemical or horniness, which is temporary and passing, but it does not reflect her emotional feelings towards her husband. And in fact, that type of intimacy, I wouldn't even call it intimacy, I would call it sex, because it doesn't feed the marriage. It robs the marriage, it bleeds the marriage, and actually causes more emotional disconnect. But again, that's beyond the scope of today's training. The point I'm making over here is that sexual intimacy is a real need. And if a woman doesn't get it, she's going to usually want it somewhere else. So, for example, one of the reasons why the 5 love languages, which you may have heard about, don't work when you have marriage cancer, is because even if it's true that your wife, let's say, wants physical touch, and that's her love language, okay? Physical touch, that's her love language. But if you have marriage cancer, and she has the wrong opinion of you, and she doesn't feel your love, and she's upset at you, why it took you 5, 10 years to get your act together, or 15 years or more, she may want physical touch, but she doesn't want it from you. And it doesn't just apply to physical touch, it applies to any other of those love languages, which is why it doesn't work. So it's important to understand that the sexual intimacy is on top of a pyramid. Once you identify your marriage cancer and you pursue an X-ray understanding of what's creating that, and then you create emotional openness and you navigate conversations intelligently, then you talk about the past, then it's so much easier and it's almost automatic to reignite that sexual passion, because it's like the natural flow of things. The mistake a lot of guys make is they put some of these things in the wrong sequence. All right? Sequence is important. So before you drive, you may want to have a GPS. It's important to have a GPS. It's also important to clear your windshield from mud. In fact, I would argue if you have a GPS, but you have mud on your windshield, you're going to get into problems really fast. So step 1 over here, identifying your marriage cancer, is like clearing your windshield. You can't dial in your GPS. You can't step on your gas. You can't get to your destination till you clear your windshield, right? So therefore, you can't learn how to navigate conversations intelligently, which is stepping on the gas, until you know where the marriage cancer is coming from, what's creating it, what has created it in the past, or what is creating the disconnect right now. That's why sequence is important. So for the guys who want to explore what it looks like to apply these 5 keys to your marriage and to see if you would be a good fit to work directly with me, you can type 5 keys under this video. And someone will reach out, have a conversation with you, and see if you are a good fit. Good fit means you're ready to step up. You're ready to take responsibility. You're ready to stop blame. You're ready to go deep and unlock the fundamental issues that have disconnected you and your wife. You're not just looking for a quick fix. You're not looking for a script. You're not just looking for a quick tip like, David, tell me what I should tell her to turn her around. It doesn't work that way. It's like losing 150 pounds of weight. There's no quick tip that's going to do that for you. You can learn it and then apply it. You have to be consistent, and it works. You recognize there's a process. There's a maturity in it. You didn't get marriage cancer in 5 days. You typically don't turn it around in 5 days. But bottom line is, if you do want to explore working together with me, write 5 keys under this video and somebody will reach out to you. I want to wrap up our training over here by asking what your distinctions are, what you gained. If you have any questions, you can post it under this video. You can post it as a comment. But it's really important to understand that there is really a system. There's a process. It's first about clearing your windshield, giving you a metaphor, right? Then it's about dialing your GPS. Okay, what's your destination? And then there's stepping on the gas. And then there is driving. And then there is getting to your destination. Similarly, in a marriage, in healing a marriage, there are steps. And you got to follow these steps. There's a recipe. And if you follow this recipe, it works.